So contemplation is more of taking a short excerpt. So I've got something from John. And that I'll read it a couple times, and you'll choose a single word or a short phrase or an image, and you'll just kind of mentally repeat it, almost like a mantra. But as you're repeating it, you're not doing it to work with the way a mantra is working to bring you back to the moment, like Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. You know, there's also within Om Mani Padme Hum, there's the meaning, which often when we're doing the mantra, we don't go, oh, what's that meaning? So we're going to take a word. Interconnectedness is the theme, so let's say that's the word you choose. And you'd go interconnectedness. And then you feel it. And you might say it again, and then you notice what else is coming in. The stars, the moon, like whatever comes up. My family. And then you let yourself mix with that word until it distills into some meaning for you now. And that's how we deepen. It can't be one of these alone. So in academia, now it's moving towards that. It used to be a lot of scholars, but not necessarily practitioners. And so that gives a beautiful expression of lineage of many different dharmas and wisdom traditions, but it's not complete. When you meet that person, you're like, it's a little out of balance sometimes, right? Because it's intellectual sharpness and brilliance. And but how does the body come into it? And how does sort of this knowing that comes out of space, which has been an emphasis here, how does that come? Where you actually, now you know, but do you also don't know? And that's our challenge, right? To be embodied leaders is to know and to not know. And so part of the deepening of topics, again, as we heard from these keynote presenters, is they contemplated. They didn't just do the research on Yeshe Tsogyal and, the Dakinis, and they did practice. Lama Sutram doing should practice, and then contemplating how that could be communicated, contemplating the threads of Western psychology and that, and then finally, out of that contemplation, which it sounds like took years. Did she say a decade? Might have been. So that's why it's important to stay with one thing and keep chewing on it. And out of that emerged this beautiful practice. And so it came out of her intellectual training, her deep meditation, and this willingness to chew. And so depending on the current activity of the mind, which is usually the sort of strong pull away from presence, it might be good just to start to feel yourself in this room. Even with your eyes closed, you can have a feeling of the container or the space that's holding our practice this morning. And into the soft creature of your being. and opening the door and arriving. Allowing yourself to feel the body. And in particular, to feel the way you're being supported by the earth. So depending on your posture, it's a different feeling. And also depending on other factors. And sometimes we melt and give in to the support of gravity. And sometimes we slightly resist or lift away. Noticing your legs. So I'll read through it twice and just know that you don't have to hold on to anything. You're not preparing for an exam, right? You're just listening, and at some point something will rise to the surface, and then after the second time I read it, you can go back and use that as your object of contemplation. We humans are all intimately interconnected. How we treat each other matters to the health and well-being, perhaps even the survival of us all as a species, not in some vague future, but in this very moment. Kindness is the natural response to recognizing interconnectedness, and in that kindness is true wisdom. We humans are all intimately interconnected. How we treat each other matters to the health and well-being, perhaps even the survival of us all as a species, not in some vague future, but in this very moment. Kindness is the natural response to recognizing interconnectedness, and in that kindness is true wisdom. As you're contemplating, try to allow the body to be a part of the contemplation. Heart, body, and mind contemplating a word or a phrase. Now just noticing if it's been distilled in any way to a meaning of the moment, which could be with words or without words. And just allowing that contemplation to start to dissolve into simplicity again. So just a few moments just with whatever you're feeling and staying with the breath.